The mayor, I feel kind of guilty sitting
Give your chair over here. Let's everybody rise. First thing I want to say is I know why most of you are here. If you haven't had a chance to sign in, please do that before you leave. If you haven't done it already, it's pretty crowded to get there. So if you haven't signed in, please do that before you leave. You can do it while we're going through this. This is the regular meeting of the Eastland City Commission for Monday, June 21st. I've asked Richard Rawson to lead us in the prayer and Jack to lead us in the pledge. Richard?
Our most gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you, God, for this day. And we thank you so much for this community and for the people that are represented here also, Lord. We ask, Lord, that you guide us in our decisions for the city and for the area, Lord, that it would reach and touch people the best way. Now, Lord, just be with us tonight and help us as we go through the meeting. We ask it in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ, our Savior and our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I do have several public comments here, but all of them are for item number 4 that I've got. I will call on you at that time when we get to item number 4 on the agenda. To approve the meeting of the May 17th meeting, you've got a copy of those minutes in front of you.
Those minutes of May 17th be approved as presented.
I'll second it.
Motion from Cecil and second from Richard to approve the minutes of May 17th. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Financial report.
We have another great month. Leslie?
Everything looks good to this point. If you look at our sales tax, you see the graph, you see where it's going, and it looks pretty good. If we can keep that up, that would be awesome. But you know, I'm always a skeptic, so
Yeah.
I'm not spending that money right now.
Why not?
Put it that way.
That's the highest record, highest in April record. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
By far.
By far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
there's 2 months worth of check registers here. I finally got it caught up. So if you go through there and you see anything that you have a question about, just give me a call and I'll be glad to tell you what's going on there.
Sure will.
any other questions? Finance report from Leslie?
I do.
Who?
Me.
You have a question about the finance report?
I have a question.
No, we'll get to you in a minute. Let us get to where we need to get to.
Sorry about that. I just.
The Board of City Commissioners may discuss and take action on the following agenda items. Item number 1, the presentation of the 2020 city audit. Deborah, good to hear from Jerry Love, CPA. Welcome.
Here.
Never had this kind of an audience before.
I know.
Y'all we need to move forward and let the people through the door and close the door if we can. We'll make this an oven before it's over with.
Maybe this report will be so exciting y'all will all decide to become CPAs.
Yeah, move forward. Give them more room.
Okay, you got 2 things from me. The audit report and the reporting package. I'm not gonna really go over this. This tells how the audit went, and it went really well. Thank you. Leslie always does a real good job. She has everything out on this table when we get here. And she really does do a good job in preparing for this. So now if we go to the bound audit report, on page 1 is where we issue our opinion based on the financial position as presented from the City of Eastland, and we have a clean opinion, unqualified opinion. So that's good. If we go If you look about in the middle of the page, the total assets and deferred outflows was almost $23 million. That's down about 2% from last year. Last year it was about 23,485,700. And then if you go to total liabilities a little farther down the page, they were 14,151,912. Last year they were 15,613,748. So your liabilities decreased by about 9%. And the change between those is the total net position, which is the bottom line on the page. Your net position is $8,816,079, and in the prior year it was about $7.8 million. So your net position has increased by 12%.
Great.
Go to page 9. This is the statement of activities, and we'll go third line from the bottom. The change in net position, which if you were a for-profit business, that would be called net income, was $951,448 for the year. Last year, it was about $755,000. That was an increase of about 26%. Now, if we move to page 10, this is the financial statements for the governmental funds. The general fund had a fund balance, that's the second line from the bottom, of about $1.4 million. Last year it was about $910,000. So again, your net position showed an increase, a good increase of about 48%.
How much percent was that?
48%. If you go to page 12, this is the net income of the general fund. Third line from the bottom shows the change in fund balances was about $475,000, which is then why it makes the increase look like such a big increase percentage-wise. Okay, now if you move on to page 14, we've got the proprietary fund balance sheet, the water and sewer. The net position, the bottom number is about $3.7 million. Last year it was about $3 million. So it was an increase of about 20%. If you go to page 15, this is basically the income statement. The water and sewer fund showed a net income of about $636,000. Okay, page 17 starts the notes. If you ever want some reading that will put you to sleep, you can start reading on page 17. Basically, it just says the accounting that the city uses in their different things. If you move to page 33, I thought this was a positive note. The change on your net pension liability went from about $711,000 down to about $336,000. So that's moving in a good direction. We'll just keep our fingers crossed that the market
From 700 and what?
Hang on.
From 711 to 336.
711 to 336. You know, a lot of governments, especially smaller governments, really struggle with that amount, you know, because so much of it is dependent on the stock market. And so in 2008, when everything really kind of went down, you know, the accountants who have too much time on their hands decided to make everybody's job just a little bit harder and quantify that. And now we report it. Okay, in budgeting on page 40, general fund, the third line from the bottom, the final budget was to show a loss of about $43,000, but your general fund had a net income of about $475,000. So you did about $518,000 better than expected. Page 44 is the budget for the utility fund. Fourth number from the bottom, you budgeted, your final budget was about $895,000 net income, and you came in at a net income of about $636,000. So that was a little under budget. Okay, does anybody have any questions? good to see your new face here.
I'm glad to be here.
Good.
I'm good. Anybody have any questions?
No, it's great.
All good.
If you have any questions later, Leslie knows how to get in touch with me, really.
We'll ask Leslie.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Number 2, discussion and consideration of EEDI seeking approval to begin construction of Bowie Street in the business park. I know Tom's here, I saw him.
He's right there.
Red. Nifty not to be outdone. What we're talking about here is Bowie Street. We've been talking about this for a long time. When Richard, I think, was on the EDI board, y'all talked about Bowie Street. It's always been planned to be a concrete street. If we develop the back where the bottom is, that point between bottom and the railroad and all that back in there is zone heavy industry. And we've got to have a serious road to get back in there. Otherwise, we're going to be redoing it from now on. No, the EEDI board voted today at noon to go ahead and proceed with this project. Obviously, it's all subject to bids coming in, fitting the budget, lots of decisions yet to be made, but we need to start the process. So we need your authorization because this is over our $100,000 threshold, you know, so we need to come to the city commission. But all I'm asking for you tonight is, as it states in your packet, I believe there, and you've got the drawings, you've had those since last week. Just asking permission to proceed with the process. And I believe the agenda may say something like proceed with construction. We're really talking about proceeding with the construction process, which is getting the bids. We're not going to go out there tomorrow and start moving dirt. So that's my request to you tonight, is to seek approval to start the process moving forward.
And EEI has the funds and ready to do this.
Yes, sir. But, I mean, it's got to come in on budget.
Yeah.
We're not going to lose our minds on it.
That we begin we passed the beginning construction of plans on Bowie Street in the business park.
Second.
Got a motion from Richard, a second from Ben to begin the construction process for the Bowie Street EEDI and the business park. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Appreciate that. We'll try to put it up for businesses before long.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Tom. Number 3, discussion and consideration of the Fine Arts Association seeking additional hotel motel tax fund to make necessary structural repairs to Majestic Theater.
I'm on the way.
We thank somebody here. Ann Folsom.
And folks, we know her.
I'm grateful for a lot of things in my life, and one of them is I'm facing y'all and not this. They're a friendly crowd, but there's a lot of people. My name is Ann Folsom. I'm here on behalf of the Eastland Fine Arts Association and the Majestic Theater, and I appreciate your time. I've got a couple of our board members here, Rick Rayco, and I think I saw Rob King back there. But I'm here for 3 reasons tonight, or we're here for 3 reasons tonight. First, I want to update you on the state of the Majestic Theater as we begin to come out of this COVID season. When all theaters were shut down last spring, the Majestic was caught in the mandated shutdown. Desperate to remain vital, we took measures to keep the theater in the public eye. First, we had drive-by popcorn sales, which generated small but important income. When we were allowed to reopen on a limited capacity basis, no movies were being released by Hollywood, but our creative manager, Ryan Hobbs, showed dollar movies for several months in an attempt to just keep the doors open. We also applied for and received 2 PPE loans to pay for our 3 employees for a short period of time. The second reason I'm here tonight is to update you on the state of the beautiful building that you leased to the Eastland Fine Arts Association, known as the Majestic Theater. During our closure, the Fine Arts Board was proactive and began searching for new ways to generate future revenue. It was decided the most appropriate would be live stage productions. To do that, we knew repairs to the stage and the dressing room area would be needed to accommodate a show of any size. A local architect donated his advice to formulate a plan, and it was suggested we also consult a professional theater company for additional advice. Careful investigation followed on the backstage area, the dressing room area, which is located under the stage, and the existing ropes and curtains. The results of our findings were not exactly unexpected, but shocking nonetheless. Water leaking onto the stage from the alley, which has been a constant problem through the years, had caused more damage than expected. Several support beams under the stage have rotted, along with a portion of the stage floor. All of these things do not affect movies, but they would certainly affect a live production. Texas Scenic, which is a company out of San Antonio, thoroughly evaluated the condition of our curtains, ropes, and screen fly. Their findings revealed the ropes installed during the 1987 remodel have far outlived their expectations, and many of the riggings and hardware are in a precarious shape and in need of replacement. Repairing the rigging and screen fly must be done with scaffolding on the existing stage. At this point, portions of the stage are unsafe for scaffolding to be used. This brings me to the third reason that I'm here tonight. We need your help. We have been so fortunate to have the support of the City of Eastland for all these many years in the leasing of your beautiful building, which now is 101 years old. We've tried to be good stewards of your building and maximize the value of this property for Eastland. We are facing a dilemma we did not anticipate and cannot afford. We are not able to host any live performances with the stage in its present condition. And now that we know the ropes overhead are expired, we cannot in good conscience even have a high school band concert on the stage as it stands. As I mentioned earlier, the water must first be stopped from leaking. The stage must be reinforced and repaired, and then the overhead ropes, rigging, and screen fly can be replaced. The stage would then be safe for all uses. I think you all have a handout in your packet which shows you the price breakdown of our task ahead. And the Eastland Fine Arts would be eternally grateful if you all could help finance this for us. In this COVID year, our revenue has been reduced drastically. We are encouraged, however, because movies and movie patrons are slowly beginning to attend movies once again. And Hollywood is finally releasing a limited number of movies. We expect to return to the revenue and crowds that we once enjoyed, but regret that the time frame for the return may be slow. So I would entertain questions if you have any, but I appreciate your time again. And
you have a total repair of 63.7.
yes,
How much of that are you going to need from the city?
whatever.
Nice.
Yeah. Our little pot is pretty dry right now.
Well, let me give you-
Listen, we would welcome whatever help.
Well, let me give you the frustrating news, and we want to help, $17,500, and that number that's the commission need, but that number came up with JJ. I asked him if we've done this before with hotel motel dollars and things like that, is how much do we have right now? And we've got $35,000. I'm recommending, JJ recommending 17.5, give y'all 17.5, at least get you started where you can get going, and we do fundraisers, whatever we can do to help. But yeah, it's a valuable asset.
That would be fabulous. That could help us do all the concrete work and repair the stage, which we can't do anything if those two things aren't done. And then have a little bit over, hopefully, for seed money
At least get you started.
to start doing something else, with this bigger number. That repairing the fly sounds like a lot, but we did do a lot of investigating, and that kind of work is very expensive and intense. But 17.5 would be awesome, and we do thank y'all so much.
I just wanted you to know where the number came from.
Yeah.
We didn't just make it up. We do have a reason, and feel like because we get requests throughout the year, and we'll have to
Sure.
go through the years, we have the money.
You say 17.5, man?
17.5.
Yeah.
I move that, we pay $17,500 to the Eastland Fine Arts, out of our hotel motel.
I'll second that.
A motion from Cecil and a second from Richard to give the Fine Arts, hotel motel tax dollars of $17,500. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you for
Rick?
your support.
Rob King said he'll make up the rest of it.
Thanks, Rob.
Okay. Item number 4, discuss consideration of ordinance 21-870, an ordinance of the City of Eastland outlawing abortion within the city limits of Eastland, declaring Eastland a sanctuary city for the unborn, making various provisions and findings, providing for servability, and establishing an effective date. And I have in front of me, people wanting to speak. The way we do this and what our procedure has always been is we allow 5 minutes per speaker, 30 minutes total. I've got these in order, and that means if you take your 5 minutes, somebody's not gonna talk. Okay? I've got them in the order they were given to me. Beth King, you're number 1.
I'll make this as short as possible. I'm here because my family adopted 2 sweet little boys. My dad's stepsister adopted my little cousin Eddie. My mom's cousin adopted a little boy who most everyone in this room knows. His name's Corey. Abortion is murder, and that is fact. We need to fight for our rights of our children. We love our children. Our children are our future. We need to get and save these children. Audrey would feel the same way. God bless you all.
Don't use my mother against me. Everybody's wondering who Audrey was. Okay, Jerry Maston, number 2.
Well, I'm here because abortion.
Not a sermon.
I'll make this quick, but I base all my decisions on Scripture, and I remember in Scripture the 2 most hideous crimes that were committed was in the days of Moses and Jesus when they killed all the babies 2 years and under.
Yeah.
And abortion is murder, and it's random. If this is sweet, if abortion is sweet, if abortion is right, if abortion is good and beneficial for a nation, and let me read this scripture. These are not my words. They're God's words. Proverbs 14:34. Righteousness exalts a nation, but sin is a reproach to any people. The Bible does not say money exalts a nation. It says righteousness exalts a nation. My contention, and I have a whole lot more, but I'll be careful here for the sake of others, is if abortion is good, if murdering babies, unborn, innocent, which I can't help this. The Bible says that God hates, in Proverbs 6:17, God hates hands that shed innocent blood. And Romans says not only are those, let me read this, although they know God's righteous decree that those who do such things deserve death, they not only continue to do these very things, but also approve of those who practice them. So we don't have to do them. If we approve, then it's the same. And my contention is, if murdering innocent babies is right, why don't we murder innocent old people, starting at the age of 62?
Wait a minute.
You're through with that.
Let it be random, just as the baby doesn't have a choice, the 60-something-year-old doesn't either.
70-something-year-old.
70.
No, 80.
Thank you, Jerry. Nancy Stewart. Clapping for you.
Sure. And, I come here, I serve on the hospital board here in Eastland, and that's not really what I'm coming in and speaking for. And I also serve on the board of the Open Door, the Pregnancy and Family Resource Center we have here in our county. And, I believe that we need to stand up for the unborn.
Amen.
It is our duty, it's our duty as citizens of the City of Eastland to stand up for the unborn in our city. And to proclaim life for them. And I encourage each of you to support this ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. Margie Maddox. I think I met her. I did.
I'm a pro-life Christian, and abortion is taking a life, plain and simple. It goes against God's word. We have a chance to outlaw abortions here in the city limits and to take a stand against this genocide that's been going on for decades. I hear the arguments they won't ever open an abortion clinic in Eastland. And I don't know about you, but I don't trust the government. Did you ever think that you could kill your baby after it was born? Well, guess what? They're doing it.
Yes.
They passed it. God help us. God says we are not to follow the ways of the world. It would lead to destruction. As it says in 1 Corinthians 16:13, be on your guard. Stand firm in faith. Be men of good courage. Be strong and do everything in love. Making a stand against this evil is love. Y'all are getting heat from someone or somewhere, and you all are kind of wavering some, but this should be a decision that's easy to make for anybody who's a Christian. I also hear that we don't want a target on our backs. Really? If you're a Christian, or you proclaim you're a Christian, you already have a bullseye on your back. In the 1980s, there was a phrase that said, what would Jesus do? What would Jesus do in this situation? I pray you all search your hearts and do what's right and make Eastland a sanctuary city for the unborn. Thank you.
Thank you. Ruth York.
Yes. Thank you. So I'm Ruth York from Cisco, and I appreciate your letting me speak, even though I'm from Cisco.
We're going to collect your taxes before you.
I'm pretty sure some of that historic lies is.
That's fine. Go right ahead.
So yes, I want to say that, we've had Roe v. Wade for 48 years now, and it might seem like, how can we stop it? People have tried, right? And they fail. How can Eastland stop it? But there is a way, and this brilliant ordinance will legally enable the City of Eastland to prohibit abortion within the city limits. We've seen it in other cities, and we've seen it's been successful. So I encourage you to take that bold step, as she said. Do not waver. Be bold. And one thing I would like to mention is it's sometimes tempting to move in that direction with a resolution. But a resolution is just a wishful statement. So make sure that it's the actual ordinance that's legally enforceable, that actually is meaningful. So again, I encourage you to be bold. Make that ordinance one that will stand the test of time.
That's what's on the agenda.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sherry Pippin.
Sharon. Well, this is a great showing, and I think it's very important. I agree with what's been said as a Christian and as a citizen, but there's one thing I want to add to it, and I may be taking this out of context. Correct me if I am, but if you look in the 14th Amendment, it says, "No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privilege or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws." I just wanted to.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. Susan Tipton.
That's me.
Oh.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I am a citizen of Eastland, and I'm here to live pro-life. I chose life for my children. I had 3 boys, so I don't have daughters, but I help raise my grandchildren too, and I raised my boys to honor life, and they chose life for them, and it's all boys. So, as a mother, I can speak, and I did do that, but as my grandchildren are all boys, I want to speak for life. God says not to shed innocent blood. I just can't see how you can get more innocent than a child. I just can't. I've actually helped raise other children also. They came into my house and I helped. I'm not a foster parent, so it was kind of unofficial, but I've helped raise, I don't know, 6 or 7. And they're doing pretty good. I think that we need to teach our daughters and our sons that they have a responsibility. If they're old enough to choose sex, then they're old enough to choose the consequences and raise their own children. They need to learn to love them. It is a commitment of 18 years at least. And they need to figure this out. Abortion is just saying there are no consequences. We can do anything we want. Well, you can't. This is the real world. And you get consequences. You get STDs and you get children. But you're a gift of God. Anybody that holds a little baby has got to know that. Of course, I mean, there's the diapers and stuff, but you get over that. And when they go to sleep, you just love them, love them, love them. So
Thank you,
I'm
Susan.
definitely
Appreciate it.
for life.
Thank you. Jose Reyes.
Here I am. Let me move there so I don't spit on you, okay? Well, you know how it is, you start speaking and all of a sudden you start spitting. Forgive me, don't adjust your ears, I do have an accent. All right, my wife and I are new residents of Eastland, Texas. We moved over here in September. We're proud and we're happy to be in a community with people that are really dedicated to be excellent to each other. On that note, abortion, here we are, talking about protecting the right of somebody that could not protect himself.
Right.
Yes, let's think about it. This unborn baby can be a born baby that can one day start to grow up and play with granddaddy, or be somebody's brother or sister, be somebody's grandchild, be somebody's best friend. Can you imagine this kid come over here and come to you with skin knees after he fell down, hoping mom and dad or dad will give him a kiss and make it better? Isn't that wonderful? Yes, it is. The other option is let abortion take its place and have this baby cut apart and be sold somewhere.
Yeah, that's true.
right.
Yes. Yeah.
Be sold somewhere.
Yeah.
And not be someone's best friend on which someone can lean his head on that shoulder and get support from that person. Someone told me one time, and I believe it's true, that on the world right now, also in the United States, it's a great shortage of men.
Yes.
Men that will stand for what is godly right.
Yeah.
And I also believe there is also a shortage of state and local officials that will stand for what is godly right.
Amen.
the end of the day, we're gonna put our head on our pillow and let's think about this. Whether we like it or not, we're gonna depart this world. And we're gonna be standing on the presence of the King.
That's right.
Let me ask to all of you, and I even ask myself, what will my answer be to him when he asked me about protecting an innocent life?
That's right.
And Robert Mason?
Sir. I'm not really in any opposition. I do believe that abortion on demand, abortion for convenience, things like that, is definitely murder. You were talking about when the two things that you were reciting, Pastor Jerry, about when Moses, in the times of Moses and Jesus, when they murdered all the children, just to get at one person, and how there was no sanctity for human life. And I remember the scriptures, like in Jeremiah, where the people of Israel were sacrificing their children, their babies, to the god Moloch by passing them through the fire.
Yeah.
Infanticide is a form of murder. I ask you to forgive me, I have PTSD, so I'm trying to struggle through my stress and anxiety right now. I believe in the sanctity of human life, but I don't know anything really about this ordinance. Does this ordinance provide for exceptions in cases of emergency?
Okay, yes, and we'll get to that, okay?
Because that's all I want to know.
Yes.
Because there are instances which we do need to think about.
We're gonna get to that. If you'll stay with us, we'll discuss the ordinance, because I've got issues with the ordinance and how things are written, okay? But we will get to that. Just hang on for that part, and we may or may not allow questions, depending on, we can't be here all night.
Right. Because I didn't know if I was gonna be able to ask any questions.
If we don't answer your question, you can answer. But give us time to discuss it and make our comments. And
Excellent.
We've all read it, and we'll see what everybody's concerns, questions are, that kind of thing, okay?
But if I may finish, I was want to say that I am in agreement with what we're discussing here. Is that, yes, I've known people who've had instances of abortions. There's been a lot of guilt that they suffered.
Yes.
My sister had numerous abortions.
Yep.
You know why? She was a drug addict. She had children taken away from her because of it. And she was irresponsible with her life, that she knew that she wasn't gonna be able to afford even caring for these children. And life was so, she was so riddled with sin.
Don't have sex. Can't take care of them.
Her life was so riddled with sin that she could not bear the consequences of her own actions. So she found easy ways out. And that's no different than murder. That people murder one another, they'll murder babies as to find a way out of something, to get what they want, to have their own convenience.
Oh, I know.
You know?
Selfishness.
And we need to consider that when we're looking at the life of somebody who has not even yet had the opportunity to live. We're denying somebody an opportunity to live. The very end of our own Declaration of Independence tells us that our Creator, our God, has endowed us with inalienable rights, and among them are our life, the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That needs to be protected on all levels for everybody. And I think as long as emergencies, we take those things into consideration, I support the ordinance. And I think that we should move forward with it and pass it.
You'll get to find that out in a minute.
Thank you very much.
I would like for y'all to know you did 9 people in 16 minutes.
I got time to say Just kidding.
You only get one list and one deal. Okay. stupid, Mark Lee's going, why didn't you call on me? I held off on, Mayor Shannon Thompson, who's gonna go next, and then Mark Lee Dixon, who's been, I think, the catalyst behind this movement, and you'll go last. Mayor, where'd the mayor go? Right there. Mayor, you are from Big Spring?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Commissioners, folks, my name is Shannon Thompson. I am the mayor of what is now the second largest sanctuary city for the unborn in the United States. We lost the title to Lubbock on the 1st of May when the citizens of Lubbock, not the council, but the citizens of Lubbock passed the ordinance. I'm here to give a little background, the perspective of someone in city government who has been there, done that. As of tonight, this is June 21st, 2021. Tonight is 18 months. And so to give you some ideas of the opposition we ran into, the legal issues that we ran into, and to hopefully allay some fears you might have about it. The first thing that we got legal-wise was when we were considering the ordinance, we got a I'd say it was a friendly letter from the ACLU advising us not to consider it. Yeah, we ignored that. We passed it. We got a not so friendly letter from the ACLU, basically threatening us at the same time the 7 East Texas cities got sued over the ordinance. Now, the ordinance that you have in front of you is different from the ordinance that those 7 cities in East Texas had, in that there was language in the original version of the ordinance that is not in this version. And actually the city of Big Spring, in our consideration of the ordinance, we removed that language. We had some issues with it too. And this commission can, at your leisure or at your desire, certainly amend the ordinance to fit Eastland. And that's exactly what we did in Big Spring, is we amended the ordinance to fit Big Spring. Big Spring was not sued. 7 cities in East Texas were sued. No cities west of I-35 were sued over the language of the ordinance. The only city west of I-35 that's been sued so far was Lubbock, and that was simply because there was a Planned Parenthood facility there in Lubbock operating. They were killing babies. Needless to say, a federal judge and the sitting Solicitor General for the state of Texas both argued that Planned Parenthood and the ACLU did not have standing to bring suit in federal court in Lubbock. So that pretty much sets the precedent that anything regarding this ordinance is going to have to go to state court. Like I said, ACLU sent us a nasty letter basically threatening us with a lawsuit. The absolute worst they have done to the city of Big Spring so far has been an open records request. Now, in response to that letter, I went out and bought a bag of frac sand and a little hammer, and the city manager took away my stamps and wouldn't let me send it to the ACLU. But I would encourage you to consider it carefully. I would encourage you to consider adopting it because it is obvious your citizens don't want abortions happening in Eastland, Texas. I dare say none of your business owners want an abortion clinic opening next door to their business.
Yeah.
There are places, and what this ordinance ultimately does for the city of Eastland, and it was the same thing for the city of Big Spring, is it maintains the status quo. Nobody can legally go get an abortion in Eastland with this ordinance in place. that will remain the case. Thank you, John.
Thank you. All right, Markley Dixon.
My name is Markley Dixon, Director with Right to Life of East Texas and founder of what's called the Sanctuary Cities for the Unborn initiative. And so I've been involved in, to some extent, with every city moving forward to pass an ordinance outlawing abortion. So there we have right now 28 in Texas, and we have 2 in Nebraska and 1 in Ohio. So currently we're at 31 cities right now that have passed a version of this ordinance. Now, this ordinance is not something that has been hastily drafted. This is an ordinance that has endured many tests, and this version before you is actually influenced heavily by the heartbeat bill, which was signed by our governor. And so this ordinance before you is an ordinance where if there are some issues that you'll have with it, that discussion can happen. Of course, depending on what you'll have issue with, it could affect if the offer still stands with Jonathan F. Mitchell, former Solicitor General for the state of Texas, representing the city at no cost, city and taxpayer, if something were to happen from the passage of this ordinance. And so everything in this ordinance is in there for a reason. It's very carefully constructed, and this exact same version, a very similar version that y'all have before you, is actually being discussed over in Sterling City tonight as well. And so I'm waiting word to see. They were pretty far down on the agenda, so we'll see what happens. But this is an ordinance that immediately outlaws abortion within the city limits of Eastland. And so what that would mean is that abortion access cannot take place here within the city limits of Eastland. Now, this is not saying that women who live in Eastland, if they want an abortion, well, where are they going now? They're going to Fort Worth, they're going to San Antonio, they're going to Austin. They were going to Lubbock, but not anymore. Thank you. And so all this is saying is that they could not get one within the city limits of Eastland. If they were to go to drive to Austin or Fort Worth, the person driving them would not be penalized at all under this ordinance. So all this would do is, within the city limits, if an abortion were taking place within the city limits of Eastland, Texas, that would be the illegal act. And so, very carefully constructed, this ordinance says definitively that babies cannot be murdered by abortion in Eastland, Texas. And that's what this ordinance is about. We're living in a day and age where we've got this Biden administration that is extremely pro-abortion, the most pro-abortion administration in my lifetime, and I would say probably all of y'all's lifetime as well. And what the Biden and Kamala Harris administration has said is that they want abortion access in every zip code. A statement that was made on the 21st of this year was very clear about that. It was a statement on Roe v. Wade, talking about reproductive care. Well, what are they talking about there? They're talking about abortion access. Some of you guys may be thinking, well, I don't think that the Biden administration would set up a brick and mortar shop in Eastland, Texas. And I would agree with you. I don't think brick and mortar is the future of the abortion industry. But what I can tell you is the future of the abortion industry is RU 486. Now, RU 486 often gets confused with Plan B, emergency contraception, etc. Plan B, emergency contraception, is what you'd find in a rape kit, okay? That's not being outlawed in Eastland, Texas. What's being outlawed by this ordinance is RU 486, which is administered by an abortionist. It's a two-part pill. Well, there's been a lot of things coming down the pipe about how the Biden administration wants to deregulate RU-486. They want to do abortion pill by mail. Well, that's why this ordinance is very specific in addressing that issue. And I think that is the greatest threat from the Biden administration is RU-486 being crammed down our throats. And so this ordinance is written very carefully, and this is something that we're seeing. There's language in the heartbeat bill that supports cities passing these ordinances. And so when Lubbock was sued, Judge Hendricks gave the opportunity for the AG's office to respond to some of the state law questions. And Judge Stone, Solicitor General of Texas, wrote to Judge Hendricks in a 7-page letter on May 31st. And he said very clearly that Senate Bill 8 allows cities to do this. But even without Senate Bill 8, cities can still do this. That was mentioned in that 7-page letter. And so this is something that, praise God, that we have senators and representatives here in Texas that passed legislation that supports cities like you guys standing up, outlawing abortion within y'all's jurisdiction. This actually goes to the point of conception. Well, duly noted, in the heartbeat bill is very clear that it allows for cities to go further than the heartbeat bill, as long as it stays within the laws of the state of Texas, which that do include the pre-Roe statutes, which criminalize abortion unless the life of the mother is in danger. You know, for so long we grew up maybe watching Schoolhouse Rock, and we heard how things become law, bills become law and everything, and then we kind of forget those things. Supreme Court does not make law. Yeah. Roe v. Wade is a Supreme Court opinion, and it is wrong. Yes. Yeah. And I stand with Justice Clarence Thomas in saying that it was created out of thin air, that there is no right to abortion in the Constitution. And the duty that all of us have, whether we're Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas or Mayor of Eastland, Texas, that all of us have this obligation, even citizens of the United States of America, we have this obligation to protect, preserve, and defend the Constitution of the United States. And I would say, if you believe with all your heart that the right to abortion is in the Constitution, vote against this ordinance. Vote against it. But if you believe the right to abortion is not in the Constitution, that it was never there, that it was made up completely, then support the Constitution. Amen. Support what she mentioned, that all human beings have a right to life. Yeah. Right. Every person, what is a person? Everyone in this room, we live in a day and age where we've seen the ultrasounds, we've heard the heartbeats, we've had the gender reveal parties that our nation may be trying to take away from us. Should you not? Lubbock, Texas, Charter Review, they want to remove all gender identifications. It's horrible. Guys, we've got to stand for what's right. And Amos 5:15 says to hate evil, to love good, and to establish justice within the city gates. Amen. And perhaps the Lord, the God of hosts, be gracious on the remnant of Joseph. This is y'all's obligation. This is y'all's moment to stand. And I would even encourage that, because I know that the way these things work, majority of the cities that have passed this ordinance usually have suspended the rules for a second reading, etc., to go ahead and get it passed in one night. That's what majority of cities have done. There's only been a few cities that have not gone that route. Big Spring was one of them, and Levelland was another. And then, of course, Lubbock did a completely different route. Yeah. But majority of the cities have passed it in one night, and that is something I encourage you to consider. But this is something that every city that I go to, I don't go just casually I don't draw a name out of a hat. I go to those cities because people in those communities keep on sending emails, reaching out, and I hear these really heart-wrenching stories. Like someone said earlier today in an email to me that resident. There are people in this community that are watching y'all's decision today.
Yes.
Perhaps even some young women at the high school. And y'all's decision today could impact the decisions that they make in their life. And so if you do have any questions about the ordinance, I'd be glad to answer any questions that I'm able to. But I sincerely encourage that this is a very solid ordinance that we have seen great victories. We're 8-0 with the ACLU right now.
All right.
We're not about losing. That's what I love so much about Trump. Trump is not one that paraded on the idea of loss. He wants to win. And we don't want to lose. We want to win, win, win. And so this is a situation that encourage you. Trust the Lord with all your heart, not on your own understanding. But in all your ways acknowledge the Lord, and you will direct yourself.
We'll ask the question.
I do have an opening statement.
Okay, you'll get to that, just hang on a second. We'll now go the commissioner, the attorney, if we've got questions or comments that she needs to make, we'll make those. I'll ask you to, if you've got a question, we'll consider those, raise your hand, be polite, be intelligent, and we will move forward. Commissioner Dar has an opening statement.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you.
We just had 11 opening statements.
Hey, I want to personally thank each of you that are here tonight for coming out and being a part of this. Your representation here tonight means that you're excited to be speaking for the unborn. Those who can't speak for themselves. I also want to thank Commissioner Rosander for helping me get this on the agenda tonight. Your stance and your passion you have for the unborn. Sanctuary City for the Unborn, this ordinance. To me, this is kind of what it comes down to. Cities have the right to regulate business and practices within their bounds. Abortion is a business, driven by profit, and they're required to abide by city regulations. After Lubbock passed their ordinance, abortion stopped. They stopped. This ordinance is consistent with state law. It is also consistent with the 28 other cities that have passed Sanctuary City for the Unborn, including Levelland, Big Springs, Rusk, and our neighbor to the south, Carbon, Texas. This ordinance is a winning formula and has yet to be overturned in courts. Eastland doesn't have abortions. Eastland doesn't want abortions. May God help us get this passed.
Amen. Okay. Commissioners, what's your thought, plans, questions, concerns?
All right, I'll start over here.
Okay.
One of my main concerns is, I think that everybody in this room that knows me knows that I am pro-life.
Yes.
There's no ifs, ands, or buts. I'm pro-life. What we're talking about when we talk about abortion and murder, we're talking about biblical values, Christian values, which I'm a Christian. I believe those things. I stand for them 100%. But this is not the Bible. This is a legal document. In principle, I think the City of Eastland needs to be designated by this commission as a sanctuary city for the unborn. However, I have problems with the wording in the ordinance itself. Now, we don't have to accept this exact wording. And we have the option of changing whatever we want to change. But there's one phrase here, let's see, it says giving.
What page? Refer to the page.
Let's see, it's page number 5. Right down at the bottom of the page where it says aiding or abetting an abortion in Eastland, Texas. It shall be unlawful for any person to knowingly aid or abet an abortion that occurs in the city of Eastland, Texas. The prohibition in this section includes, but is not limited to, the following. Look at B. Giving instructions over the telephone, the internet, or any other medium of communication regarding self-administered abortion. Violation of Amendment number 1, freedom of speech. If you regulate what a person can say, if you can penalize them for what they say, that is in violation of the First Amendment. Now, I want to get something on the books here. I really want to get something on the books. I would like to point out that many times tonight it has been said that this is consistent with state law. Yes, it is. It is very consistent with state law. State law addresses just about everything that is in this, with the exception of that freedom of speech. In Senate Bill 8, it specifically says that none of this could be construed to be a violation of the First Amendment. If it is consistent with state law, if state law says that you cannot have an abortion in the state of Texas, who are we to pass a law that says the same thing? That law exists. I am, and Ruth, I know you mentioned resolutions, but I am very much in favor of these men up here standing up and saying, we don't support abortion in Eastland, Texas. We don't support abortion anywhere. And I would like to see, since there are so many flaws in this, I would like to see us pass a resolution to that effect. That each one of these commissioners would stand up and say, we don't want abortion in Eastland, period. No way of standing for place. Let's see, there's one other thing that I want to point out.
While you're looking, and you look for that, I want to ask Mark a question.
Can I respond to that statement about the First Amendment?
Can I ask you to respond to that?
Absolutely.
Okay, go ahead.
So if you look on page 6 under, this is going to be D5. No provision of section D, which is where you quoted from, may be construed to prohibit any conduct protected by the First Amendment of the United States Constitution.
That's exactly what it says. That is exactly what it says. But
well, let me finish what it says here. As made applicable to state and local governments through the Supreme Court's interpretation of the 14th Amendment, or by Article 1, Section 8 of the Texas Constitution.
All right. On page 6, it says
If I tell someone how they can end their life by suicide, then I can be charged for that. Now, even if I use the defense that, well, I'm using my freedom of speech, that would not hold in court. And so we're talking about self-administered abortion. So if I were to tell a female how to do that, and it caused her death. We've had cases in Texas like this where, and the person who was involved in that has gone to jail. Were they using their First Amendment right? No, they weren't. So this is it's already addressed in the ordinance. And
what did you refer to when you referred to that? In this ordinance, you just referred to that?
Yeah.
What did you say it was?
Which one?
On page 6, what you said.
Section D. D, I think it's
D5?
D5.
Okay. Now that you've got that in there, why do you need that sentence he just questioned? Take it out.
Are you talking about?
The deal he just questioned, B under D3B, that he just questioned, because that's some of my, I mean, what does that do to the ordinance one way or the other? That is, someone can, whether that's in here or not, the ordinance as it's written, someone cannot have an abortion in Eastern Texas, whether that line's in there or not. So why say something in an ordinance and turn around and say that it doesn't matter?
Well, if you want to give the abortion industry a loophole where they can actually do that, then take it out.
Well,
But
they
if
can
you
actually
don't
do what?
mind-
Give instruction on the telephone, the internet, or any other medium of communication regarding self-sufficient abortion? How are you going to police that?
Well, this is something. How do you police prohibiting engine brakes on big trucks? I mean, it's a deterrent, and the law in the books helps.
Can the law of the state of Texas regarding abortion in every aspect, including the statutes as they stood before Roe v. Wade, can those be enforced?
So here in Texas, the way that this ordinance works is that there's a public enforcement and a private enforcement. Now, you guys would not be enforcing the public enforcement. This would be enforced by private citizens. It would be the same way.
Let me re-ask my question. Can the state of Texas enforce those laws?
So certain actors in the state of Texas could not, but others could. That's the short version.
You're talking about private lawsuits.
Well, I'm talking about there are other people within the state of Texas that could enforce the pre-Roe statutes if they so desired to. But there's certain actors that are prohibited from enforcing those based on the Supreme Court's ruling. But the way this is written, this is specifically what you're doing is you're saying that, because the City of Eastland cannot enforce this until rulings happen in the courts. And so the only people within Eastland that would be enforcing this is private citizens. And so citizens can bring lawsuits against the abortionists and anyone who aids and abets the abortionists.
Is there any language in this that tells the civil courts what the penalty should be?
This goes to state court.
Is there anything in this ordinance that tells a state court that it has to do something that the City Commission of Eastland says to do?
This law, the way it's written, is it would be the law of Eastland. And so just like the Judge Hendrick's court examined that issue there, this issue would be examined by the courts as well. But the thing is, it would never be on you guys. It would be on the citizen bringing the lawsuit against the abortion industry.
There are two phases to this thing. There's two punishments for it. The first one by law enforcement or the commission can enforce it, but they can't enforce it, right? Because the state of Texas can't enforce it.
It's dependent upon certain decisions
and that decision has been made that the statutes that have not been repealed by the state are declared to be unconstitutional. Therefore, no governmental body or governmental jurisdiction can enforce any of those laws, even though they're still on the books. But I'm looking at this from a strictly legal standpoint, okay? I want everybody in this room to know that I am not against life. I don't want anybody to say that I am for abortion, because I'm not. But from a legal standpoint, what we're talking about is not passing something that is in line with Scripture, which we have to take that into consideration, but we're talking about a law. This is a law being passed by the City Commission that is not enforceable anywhere in the state of Texas from a legal standpoint. on the second half of it, from the public enforcement, a person can file a civil suit against anybody that performs an abortion. They can't sue the mother that has the abortion,
Right.
even if she performs it herself.
Right.
Neither section can be enforced. So our purpose in having laws or passing laws is to look at it and see if it is something that really is going to make a difference.
Made a difference in Lebanon.
And but the law in Lebanon also is unenforceable.
But, well, no, private enforcement is in effect, and it could be enforceable if a court did a declaratory judgment. You know, we've got a lot going on right
Tries
now.
to tell the court what to do, not only what to do, but how much to fine them.
That's a private.
Tell a state court what to do.
And the fine for that, if I understand, which I've got a note here to ask, to clarify that, is $2,000 to $10,000. Is that the range?
Correct.
And this ordinance, in this ordinance, you define abortion as murder. It is.
What the state of Texas says.
But no, it is murder, period. But the thing about it is that puts it into the purview of the state courts and not at the city level.
That's why it goes up for state court.
Murder is punishable by life in prison or by death, administered by the state, not by a city commission. If you try to redefine everything in here, it's not going to work. You know, we know. I think you probably know. Penal Code 1.07 defines an individual. An individual is from the moment of conception to the end of their life. An unborn child is from the point of conception till birth. That is already defined in state law. It is already made illegal to kill that baby. It is punishable by life in prison or death. It is not punishable by a city commission saying, no, you gotta pay $2,000.
Well, you're not taking away any kind of penalties by the state. You're just imposing extra penalties. You're supplementing local.
We're gonna punish the person twice for the same crime?
No. Fines stack on one another all the time. And so, violation of city law and violation of state law.
From my 32 years in law enforcement, I found that every time that I was chief of police here for 21 years and 11 years down in Gorman. But if we filed one case in the municipal court and another case in the district court that both covered the same thing, the district court would not proceed with prosecution on it as long as it's handled in the municipal court. In this ordinance, municipal court can't do anything. So, you know, ordinances are written for the municipality.
Well, if you disagree with the senators and representatives that passed the heartbeat bill,
I love Senate Bill 8.
But
there's no doubt.
It supports you guys doing this then.
Senate Bill 8 is a good law. It covers all the things that are in this ordinance, as a matter of fact.
Well, it doesn't. It allows you guys to go further than it does. And
it also has a private enforcement section in it.
Right.
Okay. Anyway, folks, don't leave me wrong.
Well, we are.
We're setting boundaries for this.
Everybody.
Mr. Mayor, could I address a couple of the commissioners' points?
No. No, everybody hang on. Everybody just, I'm not being rude, just hang on. There's been 3 people right here already asked if they can speak, and I've nodded my head. Let us talk for a minute. We may answer some of your questions, some of our own questions as we go through this, okay? And then when we get here, y'all can, if we need to, we'll have more discussion. Any of the rest of you guys got any questions?
A couple of clarifying questions here. So this is addressing telemedicine abortions, which is becoming much more widespread. Right. So if that telemedicine visit and the mail of the abortifacient is mailed to them, and they self-administer that here in Eastland, that would be an illegal act. And would that entity outside of the city of Eastland, because their corporate office or wherever they're stationed, would they now be subject to the laws of the local ordinance?
So someone from Eastland, if they knew about someone outside of Eastland sending abortion pill by mail here, that action they could go after the person sending the abortifacient. Now, of course, in that situation, the mother of the unborn child, the mother seeking the abortion, is not penalized, and that's due to state law in Texas never penalized the woman seeking the abortion. It always penalized the abortionist and the one who is aiding and abetting the abortionist. And so, does that answer your question?
I think so. So would the expectation be that company that's providing that telemedicine visit, they would need to know local ordinances to know that they cannot perform that visit, I suppose?
Well, it's an issue of, they could use as a defense, they knowingly sent an abortifacient drug here, then of course they could be penalized for that. And even if they didn't know that, they're still breaking the law. Like, for instance, there are places overseas that are mailing abortifacient drugs here in the U.S. right now. It's an illegal action. And so technically right now, you could go after an abortion pill distributor who is sending abortion pills to Texas, because that's something that is not allowed here.
And so just making sure that I'm clear on this as well, who is suable? So we have the insurance company, correct? So the health insurance company that would pay for the abortion would also be subject. So they would also need to know what is legal in certain cities or not, I suppose, or they're subject to a lawsuit by a private citizen.
So the way that would work,
like Blue Cross Blue Shield, for instance.
But right now, there's no abortions taking place within the city limits of Eastland. So what we're talking about is an abortion facility would have to move here, or an abortion, something offering abortion. I think that what we can see, growing up, I thought I would always, on the weekends, I would always go to grandma's house, and I would always go to Blockbuster Video and rent movies before I go to grandma's house. Well, we don't have Blockbuster Video anymore. It's been replaced by Redbox. It's been replaced by downloadable movies. And the abortion industry, I think, is going the same direction. We're seeing ideas that are out there about vending machines. They already have vending machines in California that have Plan B and condoms and everything else. They took out the sour Skittles and Dr. Pepper and replaced it with those kind of things. Horrible situation. And so I think the future of the abortion industry, we've got to look ahead, and that's what this ordinance does. It makes sure that any loopholes, that it just can't happen in the future, because we don't know what's going to happen here in America. What's happened since January here in America is just mind-blowing. And so we don't know what's ahead, but what we can do is we can do as much as we can, as much as our state legislature allows us to do, and that's why these things are addressed in here. Today, right now, if there was an organization that paid for an abortion that took place out, like in San Antonio or Austin or Dallas-Fort Worth, they can't get sued over it. The insurance company can't get sued over it right now if this was to pass. Because right now there's no abortion no abortions being provided.
Unless it's done through a telemedicine visit.
Right, but right
So
now,
it
that
would be technically possible.
which right now that'd be against the law anyway, but that's something that, but that's something that people are pushing.
I think they had it under an exclusion probably right now because of COVID. So
Well-
because of limited access, they've given certain allowances to allow for telemedicine visits.
But not with abortion,
I
not with
think it was with abortion.
not
I
with the
could be wrong.
administration of the abortion pill. That has to take place.
In a clinic.
Yes.
I'd like some clarification on that. I believe it is being provided through telemedicine right now. I could be wrong, but my day job's a pharmacist. So when I'm looking at the drugs here, specifically some of the drugs mentioned here, the misoprostol, we've dispensed that several times in the last year for IUD insertion for women. So there are some other uses for the drugs. So if it passed and we had to set an effective date, essentially every pharmacy probably in town will be in violation of the law because they have possession of those prescription drugs, or if a lady had it in their possession from buying out of town, using it for other purposes. It's not saying for the specific purpose of an abortion. It's just saying that it's contraband to have it in possession, period. And I think that language was added to our ordinance outside of some of the other ordinances passed. It does make it more complicated of an issue, I believe, to have specifically mentioned drugs. I do think that at a very minimum, it's not, I think it's irrelevant because if you're banning the act of abortion, I'm not sure you're having to ban contraband unless we're trying to enforce that separately from the act of abortion. So would that necessarily be publicly enforceable to make a substance illegal? So is my main question is, okay, just having possession of it is illegal. According to this is what it seems like. Is that enforceable separate from the anti-abortion statements?
Well, so abortion-inducing drugs, RU-486, it's a two-part thing. You could use,
It doesn't mention RU-486 here, except for the mifepristone.
Well,
and the misoprostol.
Right. So on how this works, like when the abortion pill is given, two pills, that is given by an abortionist,
right? And
that they're given together, and so you take one and then you take the other home, and so it is that combination there. There's the intent there to end the life of a child, and it's about intent. Like, I mean, I could use bleach to clean the floor, or I could use bleach to drink, which would be bad, You can use good things the wrong way all the time.
Sure.
But what this is about the intent, that if these things are given together, that is the issue, that it's the intent to cause an abortion.
And I don't think the language makes that clear, is my point. So I think that's definitely an area that needs to be re-looked at minimum, from my perspective. Because as it's written right now, it's just plainly, it doesn't say in combination, it just lists two drugs and any other drug. And you're gonna have, we're gonna have to call corporate Walmart, make sure they know that, and I don't know, again,
they don't have those.
That I wonder, is it enforceable by public enforcement? Because it is a separate, what do you call it? A separate unlawful act from abortion and aiding and abetting. So that is separately enforceable, and I'm not sure that's in violation of Roe v. Wade or other laws to ban substances. So I'm wondering how is public enforcement going to work on that? It seems like it's immediately publicly enforceable to me.
Well, wait, let me ask a question here. From what I'm reading, public enforcement is not even an option here because Roe v. Wade is still in place. The only thing we're concerned about is private enforcement.
So private enforcement, now technically there's an argument that you could go after abortion providers if you wanted to. But the way this is set up, private.
Mark, neither the City of Eastland,
right,
nor any of its officers or employees, nor any district or county attorney, nor any executive or administrative officer, or employee of any state or local government entity may impose or threaten to impose the penalty described in E1 unless the Supreme Court overrules Roe v. Wade. So we're not here to talk about public enforcement. It may be in here, and that's fine, because I'm really, when I read that, I just go on to the next thing, because that's done. We're done with that. Well, I'm sure we could take it out of the ordinance. It doesn't even need to be in there. But if it does to make this thing fly and be legal and enforceable and keep me out of court, then okay, I can live with that. But so our real concern is the private enforcement and how we're going to try to use that to find somebody is all we can do. And the way I read this and what I have read, trust me, and I'm a slow reader, folks. You don't know what this has been like. But I am fully engaged in what you're trying to accomplish. I've read the notes from the January of 2020 from the state and the state senators and representatives encouraging small cities to do this. I think it's a message that needs to be sent all the way up to the Supreme Court of the United States. Okay? And I just think this is, we sit here, we've heard enough sermons tonight, but we sit here in small town Texas and we see all the nonsense going around us. And I believe you said a while ago, do you trust your government? You know, that's a sad statement. But I doubt a person in here trusts anybody but the local Eastland government. But it's time we send a message. And what I see us doing here in Eastland, Texas, is supporting our state people to fight that battle under the federal government. Yes. And if we can do this and shut down, hopefully in our area, abortion clinics, abortions taking place, we've made great strides. Now, I am not in favor, and it's not in here, my concern, and there'll be two ladies in it can tell you, and let me clear something up. When this first came to me, I was not in favor of it because of the way the things were done and written, and I didn't understand. And I'm willing to always learn, and I'm willing to admit I might have been wrong. Turn the recorder off. But I have read all of this, and I fully and clearly see Senate Bill 8 and what the state's trying to do, and what they're trying to do. The state people have had a gut full of the federal government, so I understand what you're doing. Let me get on my little kick here. I just want to clear up some things that we have that as a commissioner, that as we say we're going to do this and enforce something or do whatever, I want to make sure that we actually have the teeth to do it. These commissioners will tell you and these city people will tell you that I question everything we do and do we have the teeth in it, because if we don't have the teeth in it, it's working. Okay? One of the things that's said on here beside the typo on page 3 under, what is that, something 12. Come on, the very first part of this thing, A12, you've got a typo, but it says bad abortions occur anywhere in the state of Texas. I don't control the whole state of Texas. So I'm not saying that I can't live with that comment, but why is that in there? Why can't it just say Eastland, Texas? Because I control Eastland, Texas. I don't control Ranger and Cisco and Carbon and Holden.
So
it says,
right.
The city commission finds it necessary to outlaw abortion under city law, to outlaw acts that aid or abet abortion that occur anywhere in the state of Texas. I can't outlaw anything in the whole state of Texas. So that is a bad comment to me. So if it's got to be in there, then I've got a real question about.
There is a reason that wasn't there, but that part can be struck without it affecting the ordinance.
Okay.
And so it would just need to be struck at
And it's
to
got under
outlaw acts that
definitions of-
aid or abet abortions that occur anywhere in the state of Texas.
Definitions of abortions, answered the part about the morning after pill or oral contraceptives and those type things, so that's not part of this thing. Okay. Sorry, but I've got to read all these. Is a criminal, I think this is in the declarations, any person who furnishes me in return abortion is a criminal and felon subject to imprisonment under side, and that's all that's not enforceable here, and I don't know why some of these things, the things that are not enforceable and don't pertain to us, part of this I read like a proclamation and not an ordinance, and that bothers me. I don't need, and here's number 9, the city commission urges every district attorney in the state of Texas, including the district attorney of Eastland County, to investigate. That's a proclamation. That's not an ordinance. Urging somebody to do something is not an ordinance. Okay? I mean, that to me is bad language. I don't know, and those are fine. I already had questions on Cecil asked. The city commission urges all residents of Eastland County and the state of Texas to regard anyone who performs or assists in an elective abortion. That's a proclamation. That's not an ordinance. Okay? Okay. That's why our ordinance is 11 pages and other people's only 7. Is that right? The one I had here, this is under unlawful acts. D, at the very top line of page 6. Coercing or pressuring a pregnant mother to have an abortion against her will. That's an unlawful act. Right? What if it's not against her will?
Which part are you talking about again?
Well, it says here, unlawful. It should say have an abortion. Don't put against her will on there.
Well, this is mirroring some of what we have in the heartbeat bill. And so we're lining what we have up with state law.
Okay, but to me, that's a loophole. It's not against her will, so it's okay to do it. I don't need that statement. We've already said abortion is illegal. And I know what you're doing, coercing or pressuring someone is what you're really after, is someone coercing somebody to do this. But why does it matter if it's her will or not? Abortion, if it's illegal, it's illegal. That's just
well, this is about the aiding and abetting an abortion. And so it's about the person who's doing the act.
I understand, but what does the mother's will have to do with it? It's against the law. Okay? I had a question about penalties, and I wrote down here 2K to 10K, best I can tell. There's the Supreme Court. Not against the mother. That's a crime. Private enforcement. I want you to bring that up. I believe that. Here's one that I didn't like. Page 9, and this is only 10 pages, I'm almost through. Page 9, the city commission further declares that it would have passed this ordinance, and each provision, section, subsection, sentence, clause, phrase, or word in all constitutional applications of this ordinance, irrespective of the fact that any provision, section, subsection, sentence, clause, phrase, word, or application of this ordinance were to be declared unconstitutional or represent an undue burden. If I knew that ahead of time, I wouldn't pass it.
Well, this is something that, so if a court does address this issue, the severability clauses exist in there to where the entire ordinance cannot just be thrown away, that the sections of the ordinance where there's an issue, that it gives an opportunity for resolution. And so if something were missed, so in the letter which y'all been given by Jonathan F. Mitchell, who, I don't know if you guys heard his full background, but former Solicitor General for the state of Texas, law clerk for Justice Scalia, been for Supreme Court numerous times. He's familiar with courts. He's the type of person that you'll want to address these issues. And if something were missed by myself and him, in this, then that is something that, a part of things is changed. The whole ordinance doesn't.
Part of that protection, the umbrella. Same thing with number 2 that I had a note with, saying the same thing. Unnecessary.
When you have a bad spark plug, you don't throw away the car, you get a new spark plug.
Okay. Anybody else? I've had 4 people I know of ask to say something. Make it short. Robert, I believe?
Okay, yes, sir. Provisions for emergencies, you already told me that that's in there. Tubal pregnancies, endometriosis, life-threatening to the mother, she's protected.
Yes.
Okay. Now, Supreme Court stated, okay, listening to the back and forth arguments, I have to ask, Supreme Court, highest court of the land, stated, abortion is not murder, and it's legal. Is that enforceable? Because if you enforce that here on a local level, is it not possible for a person to appeal all the way up to the Supreme Court and have it overturned and then come back and countersue the City of Eastland for filing false civil or legal charges against that person in violation of their constitutional rights?
Well, okay, if I ended up, this would be brave of me. First of all, abortion is not a constitutional right.
Okay.
That's what
That's
everybody
right.
is saying.
Right.
Okay? And I think you have the public part of this thing, enforcement, whatever it says, and you got the private. The public part is what you're heading to, and I see this screen of protection through the state of Texas and what they're trying to do. So you've got the public part in the state of Texas, and that's out there. In the state of Texas, I feel like, is trying to protect us in small town Texas from the Supreme Court. And they're trying to fight this battle every day. If Senate Bill 8, it's under attack, and there'll be some fights against it. The Lubbock case, they have not filed an appeal yet. They've got 9 more days. They've got to do it in 30 days. They did it on June 1st, so they've got 9 more days to fight to appeal that. So the next time we meet to clear all this up, we'll know what happened in that case. There's a case in Mississippi, they say, I've read, that if that case is overturned, it'll kill Roe v. Wade. And it's before the court right now to fight that battle. But it's what you're saying, we've kind of got this little umbrella of the state of Texas. And when I read it, I called our state senator today and didn't get an answer back. But I still want to talk to him and ask him what, because that letter they signed off on, Perry and them, is 17 months old. I want to know what's the landscape look like today after Senate Bill 8 that was passed recently. So that's other questions, but I'm ready to stand up and say enough is enough. I've still got questions. I'm taking the word of a guy that doesn't know how to wear a hat. You know what I mean? but I think he's really bald-headed. But that government time is time.
Yes, that's right.
Our government has lost its mind. You've got the Supreme Court. We've got 6 conservative justices on there, and 3 of them have lost their mind. That battle. We've got 2 more guys right here that have questions. Go ahead.
What I wanted to say, they were saying, this is the law. The law is made by people. It can be changed. And we are here to say a statement. We want abortion to be illegal here. Yeah. So we don't try to find an escape to not have this ordinance. Yeah. We're trying to find a way that it will work. So I think we should look for that. I mean,
100 years ago, who would ever thought that we couldn't pray in school?
Yes.
Okay, 100 years ago. And in our lifetime, we saw one person destroy that. Yes. And if you ask, and I'm sorry, but we've had enough sermons tonight, but I'll get on my soapbox. We've had so many people question what's wrong in America. They took God out.
Thanks for letting me say something. I want to address something that this is mostly Commissioner Thunderbird. We've all been to junior high, we all went to high school, and we learned how how government is supposed to work. But I'd like to submit to you that the reality is something different. And the way this actually works is that one side for 100 years has been pushing, they never stop, they never get pushed back against effectively. And I have to tell you, what you just said is, it's my opinion. I mean, it's time to push back against.
Well, the silent majority's been silent long enough. It's time to speak up, and it's
If one side, if you allow one side to push and push and push, and you never stop, and you never decide, there's the line, we're gonna push back. What they do, they do things that are clearly unconstitutional. But what they've learned is that if no one fights back, it's the land. It's the law. So I would suggest to you, vote for this and make them push back. If it's against the law, force them to force you. It's time.
You bet.
John, I agree with you 100%. Good. My concern, I hope I made it clear a while ago, my concern is that I know what my legal document that cannot and will not be enforced. Why should we sit here and pass an ordinance when it is not enforceable? When we could all of us stand up here and say, yes, we resolve that abortion will be unfair.
That's not what the community
I would say doing something is better than doing nothing.
Quiet, please. We have the good rule to go by. I wanna say, and I love Cecil Thunderbird for his service.
Yes.
But I believe this ordinance is enforceable.
Yes.
At the private level.
Yes.
Public level, you're 100% right, and that's what the state of Texas will tell you. The ordinance actually says that. It's not enforceable. You can't do squat until Roe versus Wade is overturned. But the private deal, it's nothing more than a neighbor or somebody doing something, report it. That can be fine. Now, how all that's gonna happen, Cecil, I agree, I don't know. But I'm willing to say, okay, enough is enough. Now, if we wanna go fight it, we got an attorney willing to represent us. I did talk to him today. He is still 100% behind that, and whatever he can do, and I was impressed he answered the phone. I was impressed. But Cecil, I know, in Cecil's background, I know number one, Cecil was against abortion. I know number two, he's an outstanding law enforcement officer. Pretty good commissioner. And I'm telling you. Pretty good. You may be an excellent commissioner in just a minute. But I'm telling you, I have prayed about this, I have thought about this, and I am done with our federal government. I don't agree that Biden them said they want it in every zip code. They want every zip code to have it available. They do that today. That's how stupid Biden is.
You bet.
That's how stupid
he is.
Because every zip code in the United States has abortion available right now.
Yeah.
That's not what he said. It's that he's going to put abortion in it. It's already there. All we're saying is, okay, we're here. You just offended me. Because 76448, you're not going to do an abortion in 76448.
Just sum up to say that if there is a challenge to this, none of us will be standing alone.
That's right. That's
right. Anybody else have anything?
Yeah, just a couple things. Going to private enforcement, has private enforcement been tried yet?
So not yet. We're ready to do private enforcement in
Do
Lubbock.
we expect anything soon? Or?
Well, I was expecting to sue the abortionist and Planned Parenthood in Lubbock on June 1st, but they stopped doing abortions, praise God, so we didn't have to sue them. Another thing on that, so the Lilith Fund, which is like my arch nemesis in this state, their abortion assistance group, they're named after a demon that preys on women and children. So the Lilith Fund, they actually said that upon the passing of the heartbeat bill that they're going to comply with the heartbeat bill. And that what that means is that they are no longer going to fund abortions past a heartbeat. And those abortions that are past a heartbeat, they're going to fund abortions out of state for those people. And so the abortion industry, if you have laws on your books, whether that be on the state level or the city level, you're sending a strong message that if they come here, then there's going to be a fight, and it's just not worth it. They spent, and here's the crazy thing, they spent over $300,000. New York, Baltimore, places in California, Austin, which is another state in and of itself, Houston, pouring all this money into the election in Lubbock to try to influence that. They couldn't do it. And so you saw a landslide election, and I would say that here in Eastland County, y'all are at Lubbock, Trump vote with about 65% Trump vote. That election, you got about 62% voted for that ordinance. Here, you're looking at 87%. And so I would be willing to, I don't have a whole lot of money on me, but I'd be willing to bet that if this were to go to a public election, which I do not encourage those things, it's a whole lot of work and it invites a lot of outside money. That's from Planned Parenthood. We don't want that. But I would bet that you'd have 85% of Eastland, the city, be in favor of this.
One of the things that happened that I read, and I don't tell me what I read, you may know exactly what it is, Mark, but when Texas passed one of their laws, and I think it was the one before Senate Bill 8, back in 2019, I believe it was, there were 42 or 43 abortion clinics in Texas, and immediately went to 19.
Yes.
Now, the deal, as has been stated, Zach, I believe, said, and others have said it, abortion is a moneymaker.
Yes.
And people in business don't want to spend time in court because that cuts into profits. And that's why you see those numbers dropping rapidly. I don't think abortion people are going to fight real hard. They're going to go where there's less friction.
That's
And
right.
I want to apply some friction.
Let's do some friction. I guess one of my questions is we're not exactly sure about enforceability until it's challenged. Full enforceability. Because basically our city is creating a cause of action for a citizen to sue someone that maybe doesn't necessarily have it's kind of unaffiliated with the party. So we're giving someone standing to sue another person that's having an abortion, whether that's, another family member or another entity involved.
Not the person having the abortion. You can't sue the person having the
But,
abortion.
anybody else that is aiding and abetting. So I guess we're just waiting for it to be challenged to see if the city can create a cause of action and create standing for someone to sue the facility or someone involved aiding and abetting.
Well, that issue's already been addressed.
It has been?
Yeah. So Okeechobee versus Foster is a court case. It's an in-bank decision, and so it's already been determined by the circuit court, and it's on the books. And so that you can't bring a lawsuit against a pre-enforcement challenge, a private lawsuit against a pre-enforcement challenge towards an abortionist. And so that's the thing, that private citizens can sue the abortionist all they want under Okeechobee versus Foster. And so this is why we have that support in there. And the Judge Hendricks actually told Planned Parenthood in this back and forth, that's one of the first things that he brought up. He said, Planned Parenthood, I need a response on this issue. They didn't have a good response because their argument, I was there in court to watch this whole thing play out. Ruth was there too. And it was Planned Parenthood, they looked like they were just so extremely weak up there. And our side was so strong because we had all these great court rulings on our side. We had, this is going to stand.
So we think private enforcement can stand the test.
Absolutely. And the thing is, if this goes up, if this is appealed in Lubbock, they're going before a court that has already decided that Oklahoma versus Foster is an in-bank decision. It is there. And so they're not going to change their mind on that. And so I think we're sitting really good, and I think Planned Parenthood, it would, if they don't file an appeal, it won't surprise me. The same week they sued Lubbock, they actually withdrew from a lawsuit against the state of Texas on Medicaid. So, but that wasn't big news. They probably didn't want that to be big news that they withdrew that lawsuit. So,
Robert Hayes. And she had something.
So I'm thinking I've talked with one of y'all about there are probably people that vote in the city elections like under 500, and I don't know the exact number, but we have petitions, and I could have kept working on those, and many in here could have, but we have hundreds. I know, like probably
over 400.
Okay, and so I'm just, if y'all, I know you're probably not wondering, but us, the people, we do want something. We want to make a statement like you're saying. We are so tired of being ran over. Yeah, so thank you.
Amen.
You have a comment?
Yes, sir.
Go.
Bart, I have a question. For purposes of this ordinance, is abortion defined in that document?
Yes.
Can we hear the definition?
The definition under state law, there's in Senate Bill 8, they are changing the definition of abortion because they're going to go back and include everything from conception up through birth. I don't have Senate Bill 8 here in front of me with that new language that will go into effect on September 1st. But the language as it is right now, it says
there's a Senate Bill 8.
Okay. I'll look at that here in just a minute. It says an abortion under this is it shall be unlawful for any person to procure or perform an abortion of any type and at any stage of pregnancy in the city of Eastland.
Here's our definition here.
On B.
On page 3, abortion means the act of using prescribing abortion means the act of using or prescribing an instrument, a drug, a medicine, or any other substance, device, or means with the intent to cause the death of an unborn child of a woman known to be pregnant. The term does not include birth control devices or oral contraceptives. An act is not abortion if the act is done with the intent to save the life or preserve the health of an unborn child, remove a dead unborn child whose death was caused by accidental miscarriage, or remove an ectopic pregnancy, and I have no idea what that is.
I do.
So there's that abortion definition in our ordinance. So it comes from Senate Bill 8 and all the stuff they've got. As Mark has said, they pretty well mirrored state law before Senate Bill 8. You guys have been on this for nearly 2 years, and now Senate Bill 8 is stepping in and giving them more ammunition, hopefully better ammunition to fight their battle. That's how I see all this, as I've gone through it.
And there's one more thing, if I can, just to make sure this part is not ignored. So under affirmative defense, so unlawful acts for affirmative defense, it says it shall be affirmative defense to unlawful acts described in section D1, D2, D3 if the abortion was in response to a life-threatening physical condition aggravated by, caused by, or arising from a pregnancy that is certified by a physician places the woman in danger of death or a serious risk to a substantial impairment of a major bodily function unless an abortion is performed. The defendant shall have the burden of proving this affirmative defense by a preponderance of the evidence. And so the reason that's an affirmative defense is that it is on the abortionist. The abortionist has to prove that this was an abortion to save the life of the mother. So that's why we don't have life of the mother up in exceptions. It's under affirmative defense because it is on the abortionist himself that he would be the one sued, potentially having to defend that. So, and this stuff has to be well documented and everything.
So in other words, it's not against the mother, it's
Not at
against
all.
the abortion.
None of this is against the mother.
Yes.
None of this is against the mother. Kevin?
Yes, sir. Can I just get some clarification on Plan B? I've heard it mentioned a couple times, and I didn't know if it's in the ordinance or how that plays out. And
It is not included. It specifically mentions that does not include Plan B.
is there a reason?
Or contraceptives.
Is there a reason why?
Very briefly, I'll address that. So one, I am against Plan B. The packaging is very deceptive. It says it will not harm an existing pregnancy, but on the package at the very back, it does say that it could cause the fertilized egg to fail to implant to the wall. Well, fertilized egg, life begins at conception, so that's an abortion in my book. Now, the reason why we're not going after Plan B is, for several reasons. One, this is something that that's another battle we're going to have to fight on a different level. It was something that some cities at different times have fought, but we have chosen to separate those battles because it is something that it's viewed differently in culture, and it's something that you get nitty gritty into those definitions, and we have to educate culture on that issue. So I would encourage educate others on that issue, know it, discourage it. But as far as for these purposes, this would just address surgical and medical abortions. And by medical abortions, I mean RU-486 chemical abortion.
I just would like to say that from the very inception of this nation, which began, Pastor, with the Black Robe Regiment, who began to preach and put into their people that we have certain inalienable rights. And it brought about the revolution, and it brought about the Declaration, that it has been a government by the people and for the people. And this government has totally eliminated the people. It is now government by the government for the government. And it began with the Boston Tea Party. Every Roe versus Wade, taking Bible and prayer out of school began with a private citizen taking legal action. So we cannot downplay this private citizenship thing. I think it's very important because it is the people standing up and making their voice known. And that is what is our right, and I believe our duty as American citizens.
She up to date on her taxes?
One thing I wanted to say is, some are concerned about enforcement. Personally, I'm concerned about results. And Lubbock, it seems, has shown results.
Right. Yes.
So that's what we're really after is results, and they've gotten it. And I wanted to point out, Eastland is above the ordinary. Don't become complacent. And I want to point out, courage begets courage.
That's right.
Thank you.
I believe we could probably do this for a couple more hours, but I really want to. And I think we need to, as a commission, decide what we want to do, how we want to do it, and how we want to move forward. If no one has a plan, I'll tell you my plan.
We could amend it. I like that it's how it's written. I move that we move forward and accept ordinance 21-87.
I'll second it.
As it's written. And you second it?
Well, I think we're probably gonna have to amend it some, but yeah, after we get going.
Okay. Are you saying, he made a motion to take it as it is? If no one seconds that, then we'll throw the amendment part into it. Would you like to redo your motion?
Well, if someone would like to amend it, I'm not sure what you guys would like. Would you like to take out the declarations part of it?
I think we need to do, what I think would be prudent, and I don't really know, I need to make this stuff up sometime. But I would like to have a discussion with you approving that whatever we do to amend doesn't water down and doesn't break it where it cannot be enforced.
Yeah.
And we lose our attorney. We need our city attorney to write it in such a way that we're doing it where we can legally stand on what we're doing, but it doesn't break what you've accomplished. Okay? I think that's what we need to do. So that's the amendments necessary. If the commission's willing to do that and move forward, obviously it'll be a next month meeting. We'll know about Lubbock and all those things. And you know that we are moving forward. Everyone will know that's what we're gonna do. So you don't have to come back unless you just want to. Do that board? Come on back.
We'll be back. We'll be back.
I know you will. Okay? That's my thought.
Okay, let's move that. I'll second that then.
Did you make that motion?
I didn't, I made the motion as is.
Okay, you made it, there's not a second, so that one died. We need another motion. Somebody make a motion or?
I motion we take the mayor's plan of action there.
I'll second that.
Okay. My plan of action, and we just heard what that was. Got a motion from Ben, a second from Richard. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
You want to oppose, same sign. Motion carried. We will get with you and she will get with you. We'll get a plan. Okay, and that'll be done. That'll be done on next month's, we will have that on next month's agenda. We will have that, whatever the document looks like in next month.
No, Sterling City passed the ordinance 6-0.
I'm gonna allow you, you've had your hand up and I haven't let you. Do you still need to say something?
Yes, sir. I'd just like to say, as a layman, in my life, I've worked with about 3 or 4 men that were adopted. And anyway, I asked them, visiting with them, how they feel about abortion. Said, I'm glad that my parents did not abort me.
You bet.
And Brother Cecil, I understand a little bit, as a layman, I understand a little bit of what you're saying, but most of what you're doing is kind of over my head, but I respect it.
Well, I appreciate that.
Well, he probably has more knowledge about the law, unless there's a lawyer in
law,
here. He probably has more knowledge about law and enforcement.
No doubt about it. But the more we drag our feet and don't do something, the more babies are dying.
That's right.
He just wants it to be legal.
My
I
feeling
think it
is,
was unanimous up here.
we're saving lives right here.
We got,
And if
like you
break
said.
the law a little bit to, get over into the gray area a little bit to save lives.
Thank y'all. You're welcome to stay. Whatever you want to do.
Get this done, y'all do it a little bit quicker.
Item number 5, discuss consideration of resolution 2021-10, close out wastewater treatment. Do we want to take a break? We're good with break. We're going to take a quick break.
Talked to Scott Hay, said really this is the final step. All bills have been paid. State's good with everything. We're still having a couple of meter issues out there. I did talk to Scott earlier this week on vacation, so he wasn't too happy with me, just to make sure that the issue that we were still having, there would be no problem if we passed this tonight. He said there's no problems whatsoever, and we're good to go. And with closing this out, hopefully the state will pick up its feet a little bit faster on releasing the funds that we haven't used on this to complete the Highway 6 sewer.
Yes.
Okay. Entertain a motion.
I move we accept resolution 2021-10.
Second.
A motion from Zach and a second from Richard. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 6, discussion and consideration of second reading of ordinance 21-868, an ordinance of the City of Eastland, Texas, amending Chapter 5, Building and Building Regulations, Article 4, Uniform Building Codes of the Eastland Code of Ordinances to adopt 2018 International Existing Building Code and the 2018 International Fire Code as codes of the city, and to require certificates of occupancy for commercial property, providing a repealing clause, providing a servability clause, and establishing an effective date.
I move we pass this on second reading of ordinance 21-868.
Second.
This is the second reading unit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, this is, you got a motion from Richard and a second from Cecil to pass ordinance 21-868. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carried. Item number 7, discussion and consideration of first reading of the cemetery ordinance 21-869, adding a provision regarding a new columbarium for cremains. An ordinance of the City of Eastland, Texas, amending ordinance number 693, revising chapter And Leslie, congratulations on the audit presentation, by the way. I would have said that earlier, but there were too many witnesses here.
Well, we talked about this a little bit last month. February storm has reared its ugly head. Since we are part of TCAP, in our contract we have what are called ancillary costs. We know that the energy company will not lose money, so it places them as an ancillary cost. And we have about $80,000 worth that JEXA has had hit us with. Me and Eileen looked at it.
Are we gonna be reimbursed for any of that?
As of right now, no. There was a bill in the House, I believe, that died, that would have given some relief, but it died.
And we're thinking that some of the federal, COVID relief money we might be able to put into this. But we're still kind of in the brainstorming process. So we're trying.
Yeah, but as of right now, our contract for energy runs out in December of 22. So we have to have this paid off by December of 22. So we have 18 payments of $4,265.33 for a grand total of
sales tax money.
Yeah, for a grand total of $81,041.27.
Are they adding interest to that?
There's a
We're
small
borrowing the money
increase.
on it.
Yeah. What?
We borrowing the money, we're paying it out.
We're paying it out.
Okay.
Well, it was 79,000 and it moved up to 81,000.
So for a one-time payment. If we had paid one-time payment, it'd have been 79,000. But
you pay it out and it's 81,000.
And it's 81,000. Yes. And it would have been even more if we could have picked the other option at about $1,200 a month until 2028.
No.
So, yeah.
So
$80,000 isn't a lot to a lot of cities, but that'd have hurt us quite a bit if we would have hit that in one lump sum. And again, we're hoping that maybe some of the COVID money or something will help us down the road on this.
But Jackson's gonna go ahead and start billing them.
Yes.
Right away.
We don't have an option not to pay it.
No.
It's just how we want to pay it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we're gonna pay it.
Okay. Well, I'm not in favor of paying more for less electricity, but I guess that's what we're gonna do.
Yeah,
Is that not Friday bacon? Yeah, well, if you can't put much more on.
Well, are you suggesting the 10 month or the paid out
18 months?
18 months? Yeah.
$4,265 a month.
Yeah, that sounds
At
good.
the end of December 2022.
Yeah, so
Well,
it'd be 19.
We have to do that because,
We've already passed the deadline.
well, but we have.
Well, the other option is lump sum. Do we have money?
No, no, but we have to have it paid off by December 22
Right.
because Ron has already
Our contract.
signed a contract with a new.
Well, why are they giving us an option to pay through 2028 then?
Well, that's only if we were still gonna be their customers.
Yeah,
We are
they don't know we're not gonna be their customer.
We didn't have electricity half the time, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
I move we accept the 18 months to pay Drexel Energy. This is ordinance number 21-871.
Second.
A motion from Zach and second from Cecil to approve ordinance 21-871. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Motion carries. 9, discuss consideration of ordinance 21-872, an ordinance of the City of Eastland, Texas, changing the zoning use designation of property described as lots 1 through 5, block 70 of the Daughtry addition to the City of Eastland from a single-family residential district to the general business district, amending the zoning district map for the City of Eastland to reflect such change, and adopt the zoning district map so amended.
Y'all have already approved the zoning changes, but there has to be an ordinance attached to
Okay,
the zoning
I knew
changes.
we had approved that.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
So this is gonna be my fault. Normally, whenever I handle this over here in Wells, the organization was dealt with above me between the attorneys and the city clerk. So here, whenever we had our meeting last month, Eileen was here and she knows me, said, why don't I have an ordinance? I said, well, I didn't know you were supposed to have one. So that's what both number 9 and 10 are gonna do. Number 9 is gonna take care of Mr. Burgess, his family with the storage units. And, the ordinance for number 10 is gonna take care of the burgers who had their, area rezoned to allow for them to have their outdoor venue. So that's what these two are basically gonna do, make it to where the ordinance is passed and will be put into effect.
Well, which one is the Daugherty Street edition? Is that the, storage building?
That's gonna be the Burgesses with their storage units, yes. It's on 200 Virginia.
Well, both of these are the same thing, to two different properties.
Yes, sir.
Alright, entertain a motion 21-872.
I so moved.
A motion from Richard.
Second.
Second from Zach. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Item number 10, ordinance 21-873, an ordinance of Eastland Sector changing zoning use designation. The property described as part lot 4 and all of lots 5 and 6 of block 10 of the Calhoun addition to the City of Eastland from the manufacturing housing district to a light industrial district, amending the zoning district map of the City of Eastland to reflect such change and adopting the zoning district map so amended.
Ditto what we just talked about a minute ago.
I'll make sure that whenever we do these again, you will get the ordinance when we get the zone change.
Okay.
Where are these at? What properties are these again?
The last one was at 200 South Virginia, that's where the storage units are.
Yeah, yeah.
And then the other one is the
burgers
on North College?
Yes.
Yes.
MJ's.
Yeah.
So that's what this, number 10.
Okay.
Move the passing ordinance 21-873.
Motion from Richard to approve ordinance 21-873, a second from Zach. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carried. Appointed board member to the, item number 11, I need to skip that. Board member Mary Walford to the Board of Adjustment.
BOA had an opening and they would like for Mrs. Walford to take the spot with y'all's blessing.
Who got off that board?
Yeah.
Well, actually, Mary had been on the board for her 3 terms that were allowed, and then has to stay off for a term. She's been off for those 2 years for a term. Since we're having a hard time finding people for this board, Mary said she'd be interested in coming back on the board again. And the members there thought it would be great that she'd done well in her previous 3 terms. And so they thought it would be a good idea to have somebody that knew about the board, knew what it was for and how to handle it, different issues that come up, and I thought she'd be good to come back.
I move that we appoint Mary Walker to the Board of Adjustment.
Motion from Richard, a second, is that Ben?
Richard.
Richard. Second from Richard. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carried. City manager briefing.
Okay. It doesn't look like a lot, but it really is. The mayor and I had a Zoom call with Scott Hay and Jill Finney, our grant coordinator about the CLO, to go over basically the whole summarized version of the scope of the project that we're gonna do. The state sent us some data to make sure that it matched their data. So we looked at it, Scott and Jill looked at it, to make sure everything lined up. There were some minor changes made it in different roads, not the road itself, but just the length and each part. Anything you want to add to that one?
Well, we talked to Scott Hay and what's her name?
Jill Finney.
Jill Finney, yeah. And we talked to them, and one of the things, and whether we want to do that as an entire board together and have a called meeting, or if it lines up where we can do it at a regular board meeting, that's fine. But we've got lots of money to spend and lots of different things to fix. We've got 29 streets, whatever it is, and the creeks, north and south, Leon Rivers, Polk Street, all these things. And I, as much as we can, would like to have a priority list and understand with our engineer what direction we want to go. I don't want to just turn him loose and say, go do this.
Yeah.
Because what my thinking is, it may not be able to do it because of other things. We've got to learn that. But I think we've got to absolutely get the creek cleaned out as quick as possible.
You bet.
Because if we can't move the water,
You bet.
we can pave every street in town. If you can't move the water out of town, you're still gonna flood. It's not gonna matter. So that's my conversation with him, but there's the other, what's the deal that's gotta get done to get that done? There's a
Oh, you gotta have the, you know,
The floodplain plan?
Yes, the FIF.
Yeah. It's
The
got an
FIF.
acronym to it. I don't know. Anyway,
Watershed.
so we've got, if y'all wanna be a part of that, speak up and forever hold your peace. And I don't care, but we need to have a serious discussion. $10 million is a lot of money. And figuring out how to spend that, we need to, have some input about what we think we need to do. While the rain is a pain, and we love the rain, I'm not gonna talk bad about the rain, but JJ, the great opportunity, as unfortunate it was for some people, for him to see the rivers we have through town. Y'all had to clear your church out twice. We've got the Baptist church flooding now. We've got all kinds of things taking place. And so that's, you know, the great opportunity. And I went out and down at their church, and it was by accident the first day, but seeing all the stuff that happened. Pogue Street, I've never known this. Pogue Street, the water is a river coming down Pogue, and half of that water goes down to Main Street and goes through the business district that we've got a problem with, coming from the Weaver Creek stuff. I mean, we're double jeopardy type of deal. I mean, it's already sitting up there ready to go down the creek, but it can't get there. So all these things are gonna be addressed, and those will be fixed. I believe there'll be an opportunity to make them better, where it's gonna be a perfect fix and it won't ever flood again, but it's gonna be much improved.
Could I ask, what is the purpose of the dam out of Eva?
The purpose of the dam at Eva.
Is that Olden Lake?
There was a power plant.
Causes water to back up into Eastland.
Oh, no, it was a good question. Oh, it's a great question. I didn't know that was an issue.
You know, a lot of those communities, like Llano, for instance, they've got a river running through, and they do have a small dam that allows water to go over, but usually those types of dams like that are built for that reason, you know, in those communities. I don't know how high the dam is at Olden.
Yeah, I don't know, that dam was built for electric power generation.
I know the gates are open.
Yeah.
Are they?
When I worked out there, yes.
They still are.
DCQ made them.
Our flooding problem, as I understand the flooding problem in Eastland, we've already talked to Scott A about that, and both of these are on that list. We need to provide that list to the commission, that plan, so they can see what we're talking about. But the south Leon flows heavy, and when it flows, the north cannot go. So the south and the north are both on that. Now, Scott Hay, and we talked about, you start messing with a whole lot of that, you get TCEQ involved and a whole bunch of people, we may not want our bid, the Corps of Engineers, and get them involved, and we may not want that, and how much we can do, but that's part of the problem. Obviously cleaning out I remember more than 30 years ago, cleaned out the creek, and that helped. So that's a big part of it, is getting that cleaned out. So it's a big project, and I think y'all need to have some input and see and be aware of what we're about to do and see if we're all on the same page. And Scott needs to explain to all of us, because we're gonna start having questions. So we get money to go fix the street, we make this street over here a concrete street. People over on Tomberg are gonna go, why are we doing concrete over here? It's much more travel. Got nothing to do with it. It's about flooding. That's what this whole thing is, to fix flooding problem. So while that'll frustrate some people, anything we do to help the flooding in Eastland is gonna be a great asset. So,
And then, you know, to touch on that, I mean, the way it's designed right now, a little over 3.5 miles of the south will be cleaned out, almost 3 miles of the north, forks of the Leon, Weaver Creek, plus a major, the way the water's diverted under Weaver Creek and stuff like that.
Is that just gonna be vegetation removal or silt removal?
Both. And that's what, when we get the document signed and it's done, then we'll talk to the engineer about when he wants to come in, whether we want to do a meeting at night, we'll talk about that, and get him coming, we'll talk about all of that. So you guys know, when the public asks, you know what we're doing. You're well versed on what we're doing, why we're doing it, what's happening next, so on and so forth.
Still no moving on the FIF, which goes right along with that GLO. Closed up wastewater treatment plant tonight. Hopefully that the state's gonna release funds to, that are left over, so we can work on Highway 6 and getting those people on sanitary sewer that we haven't picked up yet. 2018, the pump line, we're still waiting. We did make a step forward. We are now in the design phase, which Scott and them already pretty much have it designed, but now they are able to submit it to them. You talk about an organization that drags its feet.
I'll tell you,
That is the Texas water.
COVID has demolished everything that ever worked good.
You
I'm
bet.
not sure what all worked good. So you're talking about the government and things move slow before. Good gosh.
Yeah.
There's nothing. That's what they're waiting on. All the stuff we're waiting on the government.
They send everybody home.
Yeah.
Most of these places, if they're state agents, they didn't have anybody in there.
Right now, I'm not sure they're right. Go ahead.
Nothing really happened at the airport. I did forget to put in, at the pump station, Mr. Copeland has the parts and he's fixing to begin to install them and start working on to get everything hooked up for the generator at the pump station, so that way if we
Good.
ever lose power, we can pump water for a time being. Now, if you will look at the end of your packets, the very last page.
Budget.
Budget schedule.
Oh,
no. Is that time of year?
no,
I know
no.
you'll love it. We try to do them pretty much on Tuesday after the noon meetings that we have to call on Tuesday at noon. And on Monday at 6 is our regular scheduled commission meetings. Please look and see if you have any issues with this, because y'all have all been here a while and know how crazy it gets.
Everything's Tuesday at noon except for the last one's Thursday at noon. So
Yes.
Tuesday at noon, good. Is that generally a good day? Good as any? Huh?
Good as any, are those 1 hour meetings?
They won't be that long.
Yeah, and, I mean, the budget's starting to take shape now. I mean, it's just a working
Our
document.
workshops are the longest, correct?
Yeah,
We'll
and
make
the
sure
first
that
one will be
that
at the
first
regular
one's-
meeting,
I
so.
won't be here the 19th.
What?
I won't be here the 19th of July. I'm gonna be on vacation.
You change your vacation?
No, fire me.
Leslie, I didn't hear you. You made a comment, but I couldn't hear you.
Ben was asking about the workshops, and the first one will be at the regular meeting, and that's usually a pretty long one, cause we kinda go over everything,
Yeah.
but it's one of the ones where we're still a little bit blind, because we don't get the tax rate until the 1st of August. So the one on August 10th, will be,
I'm off that day, perfect.
okay. That was
Dang, what a way to screw that
You're
off.
your day
You're the boss, you can be off every day.
good.
Okay, if anybody's got a problem with that, be sure to check your calendar. That's the plan moving forward.
And the longer we go, the better this budget takes shape, so. Anyways, that's all I got. Questions?
No, sir, thank you, appreciate it. Code compliance.
Yes, open with 40 cases, Terry opened 37 new cases, we have to close 40, so that ended us up with 37 cases at the end of the month. With all the rain, it did slow, things down a bit as far as highways and grass, since, all the rain that come in, nobody could really go out and mow, so Terry basically put all of anybody that he was working for highways and grass, put them all on hold, so the ground was able to get to a point where everybody could actually do something about it. And so this week, he's actually starting to go after and remind people, hey, now's the time to do it, depending on if anything happens tonight, I'm not sure. We had 3 junk vehicles for the month, under citations issued, Terry left it blank, after you put the information at the bottom, you forgot to go back and put it in there, there were 5 citations for this, month of May. At $4,208 assessed in fines. Some of these fines will actually be removed. We found out that one of the people who were working was actually in jail. So we're gonna remove the fines from when this person was in jail, because it's kinda not fair to go after them when we can't do anything.
That's convenient.
Yeah. Well, yeah. As far as for served jail time, Terry still hasn't had a report for May from the jail system. So we can see how many are actually going into jail for our stuff. Last he got was for April, and they didn't have anything in there. Down at the bottom, you can see the citations that were given out for off-street parking, parking in the front yard. No plumbing permit, no plumbing inspection, an unlicensed person. Dangerous building, and these last 3 are some of our frequent flyers that we're still working. I know that last one, we're actually starting to, we're gonna be meeting with, JJ and the chief about going after the junk vehicles. They've had their allowed time, to be moved. They have also had a chance to appeal, which they did not request, and so now, we are to where we can go and make the vehicles ourselves. So we're gonna have a visit about that later this week. And, with that, that's all we have.
Is it, the junkyard or salvage yard not allowed, what was that again?
I believe this is the one that is on the, end of Conway. It's one that we had, first got a hold of by, Chief, giving Terry and I a holler to come down, because he was dealing with some other individuals at the time. So, it's, an individual that has quite a large amount of just trash and debris.
North Conley?
North Conley.
Huh?
North Conley. We got them at both ends, sir.
Yeah.
There's that one on south, but I'm talking about north.
You get one in the middle between Dixie and Conley. We didn't have to talk about that.
It's, while we're talking about junkyards and flooding.
Yes, sir.
The one down at the end of March at Maine.
Yes, sir.
Of course, I understand that's a business and everything, but it's, boy, it's getting to where you can't even drive into the driveway because of junk cars sitting around. And all that's not only in the floodplain, it's in the floodway.
Is that right over here?
Right here. Oh, down here. It's, right across from, Salt Coleman's old, well, it was at Salt Coleman's.
That's his sister's place, yeah.
So that is one that Terry and I have been talking with his property. We gave him a chance to move some more vehicles out. He started cleaning them up. He did get them off of the grass and out of that right of way. That's in between him and the Chinese place.
Yeah.
He does have them all parked on that side. However, we do have an issue on the other side. With Terry was giving him a break as far as the weed and grass and stuff there. But if he's not gonna bring it to compliance, that's, we're gonna move the citation based on that, as far as the junk vehicles, as far as the parking in.
Floodway, and you have that, those vehicles actually displace water.
You bet.
And raises the water level somewhere else, like out at the shopping center.
Well, and also with significant flow, they also become boats, which is an issue. Part of the problem here is that with what he is doing there as far as the land use, it's allowed in that zoning type. And he has been allowed to do this for quite a while. And it's one that when I first got here, had my attention, but we're trying to do it the right way to where we allow the business owner every chance we can, but also there comes a point in time when enforcement has to happen. And so we're getting to that point.
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Any other questions?
You have any more questions for Tony? Nope. Thank you, Tony, appreciate it. Chief? Still awake? After your bedtime?
It is. That's my meal time, I can tell you that. All these stats that I'm fixing to share with you are based on me having 2 openings. So the numbers are pretty impressive when you stop and think that I'm minus 2 patrol officers. With 201 calls for service, with 93 citations written, 226 warnings issued, 21 arrests. So we've had quite a bit of stuff. You see which is kind of interesting, the case filed with Juvenile Authority on the 18. That was a case that Detective Wager, who's now Sheriff Wager, worked. and it was a juvenile, that was fitted against, family members. And so that's why that number is so high. The sixth, we had that barricaded felon. I wanted to do a little shout out for Joyner, hometown boy, got him 23 grams of meth, and he is just a little dope hound, man, he loves it. We had the car burglaries, and on top of me having all the deck openings I got, I had 64 hours of mandatory training that I had to schedule around. So when you look at my budget, you see, gosh, his budget's shot. It's because of little things like that. Hopefully I can get some love from former Chief Underberg over there. We got two guys that are fixing to start. One starts the end of this month, and the other one will start at the first part of July. One of them's a hometown boy. He's just getting out. He'll graduate the academy Saturday, and so we're putting him to work. And then another guy we're hiring from Aspermont that's going to need to do some training. And then we'll just have that one position left. But right now, McDade and Wilson are splitting Wager's duties as far as doing the investigation. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to and not have a patrol sergeant per se, but have an additional patrolman on that deal. So we're kind of kicking around that idea. Some of this stuff you can just kind of happen to make up stuff as you go along, but when you got manpower shortages like that. But anyway, we're still rocking and rolling. The darn flood just about got us. We had water sitting in the hallway between your old office and the old Ray Darden's old office. We had an inch of water in that hallway, and it got into the front door, also got into the patrol sergeant's office and in the admin's area, and then just dealing with people that just couldn't, the minute it started flooding there, we didn't have any traffic, and all of a sudden it started flooding, and here comes everybody that wanted to see what the thing looked like. And then I got businessmen over there on the Miracle Mile screaming, I said, man, I can't shut down Main Street. It's a state highway. I've already applied to TxDOT, and Mr. Osnick was kind enough, because he knew I was underwater on some of this stuff. I said, man, can you call the area engineer and get him to get us some help out here? And so finally we did, and I'd like to give Chief Joe over there some help. At one point, he and I both were out there because we didn't have anybody else. So we were out there trying to divert traffic from the outside lane to the inside lane, so we quit creating that wake going into like Philip Arthur's place and stuff like that. So
I followed a guy down there when that was going on, and the water was so deep, and he was driving to the point that he was actually driving on the sidewalk and didn't even know it. And he is throwing water 15 feet over in that park toward Phillips, that business center, and the guy's up on the sidewalk. We were in the middle, pretty safe, and I just couldn't believe it.
Yeah, we finally did get some help from TxDOT, but we were probably out there, Chief, what, an hour or two? We were sitting out there just with our lights on, just watching people go by,
Well, you got blocked though, I appreciate it. Did I get your 2 SRO officers that are chipping in, helping you a little bit, or?
Yes, sir.
I saw Eddie, I passed Eddie today, so it's kind of
Eddie's out spreading.
Well, he was out in my neighborhood. I thought it was kind of funny. You don't see him around very often. He's out in the neighborhood.
Eddie's everywhere. Eddie's a good one.
Yeah.
Eddie's your best man.
Yeah.
Right. Anything else, Chief?
Willis is helping us as well.
Yeah.
That's what we're having to do. We're having to, those guys are stepping up because of the openings, and I appreciate their effort.
Well, every business we go to in the Metroplex with our grandkids watching ball games had a sign up, help wanted, $12 an hour, $14 an hour. Every one of them.
Oh, yeah.
Fire department, Chief Williamson.
Commissioners, Mayor, City Manager, thank you for your time. Real quick, we'll go through, May was our busiest month, for the year of 2021 so far. We made 66 runs, and that brought us to 2.13 runs a day. So we're still right at that. We're rolling out twice a day at a firehouse going to help somebody. 54 of those incidents occurred within the city. 9 of them were out in the county, and 3 times we went to our neighbors for calls for help to help them. We didn't have any smoke detector installations this month. Again, that tells me the program is successful and no one is sleeping alone without a smoke detector. If they are, we need them to contact us. We'll install a free smoke detector. So we made 9 calls after 10 o'clock before 7 in the morning. We had 2 structure fires this month. Again, that number, that puts us at 2.6 fires a month. That's pretty active. We had 1 grass fire, which makes sense with all the rain, but the weather coming around, I think summer is upon us. So now we're fixing to start getting challenged with the spring rain, bringing growing the fuels, and as they dry out, we're going to start being challenged out on those type incidents. 1 vehicle fire, 21 times we went out and assisted one of the medics for an EMS side. We had 16 motor vehicle accidents. We kind of think that's contributed to the rain and the weather that we took place. 19 public assists and 6 false alarms. We voted on this month our bylaws. It describes and allows for the honorary member, and we did vote on 1 honorary member this month. It was an individual who had contributed some time setting up some IT benefits for us. So we've did some remodeling station. We created another room, and we've kind of labeled it kind of a conference room, study room. We've the department's purchased a couple of laptops. We got them set up with IT and share files so that we have some members in the fire academy. They can come down and study, group study, participate, and that person was a significant contributor to getting us set up to for that benefit. Earlier in the month, I was given the opportunity to present the Eastland Fire Department Scholarship Award and volunteered. The Eastland Fire Department awarded a $500 scholarship, and Macy Fortenberry was the recipient of that. Also, I was asked, I was given the opportunity to present the Greg Simmons Firefighter Memorial. That's 2 $250 scholarships, and that went to Casey Clark and Trenton West, Eastland graduates. So that was a spectacular event to be a part of. One thing that I really want to accent on to the commission is we took delivery of the Cool Breeze cooling trailer. We're going to, that trailer will be titled or radio designated as the Rehab 6. So our deployment model with that is we've set a radio designation title for the Suburban 624 as Support 6, and it'll be in conjunction with Rehab 6, and that'll be brought out. And these incidents are coming as the weather is changing. So we've got, it's ready to go. It's in service. It can be put into play today, tonight, at any time. But we do have a couple of wants and desires as far as putting some lighting and then our graphics that label and decal that vehicle. But that's going to be a huge asset, and it's coming quick. The support vehicle, we have emptied out the Suburban, and kind of the objective the department's moving forth towards that is we're going to stock it with items that will be beneficial on long-term events, such as Visine, ibuprofen, stuff. When we get out on these events, it'll be used to comfort our members as they're on these long-term hot events. It'll be a mini not pharmacy, but it'll have Band-Aids and different stuffs that will be, and that'll be in conjunction with a rehab trailer. It'll be set up, posted. I look forward to that being used here pretty quick. Also, my last little event item, I'd like to show you on June 28th at 9 o'clock at the County Commissioners meeting, the Desdemona Fire Chief, Johnny Hart, will be awarded a life-saving commendation award. Pretty big event in my opinion. This was for a swiftwater rescue that took place on May 31st when we had those torrential rains that we were talking about. I had a vehicle that was submerged. I seen the pictures. It was above the door line into the passenger window. And it was actually in moving water. So it was not just a high water event where the vehicle was stranded. This was actually swift water. The occupant was on top of the vehicle. So Chief Hart, without a lot of resources or equipment, made the choice to enter the water to retrieve the occupant, the victim. So made contact, tied a rope around himself, and secured it to a brush rig. Made contact with the victim. Finally coerced her to leave the vehicle and to go with him. She wrapped her arms around him and her legs around him. Life-saving mechanism there was they put the brush truck in reverse and essentially just drug them out of the water to safety. So true challenging, in my experience and tenure, the guy did it. So if you're not able to make that, I just wanted to share that with you. So,
that's the 28th at 9 o'clock.
Yes, sir. June 28th at 9 o'clock.
Next Monday.
Yes, sir. And again, we just encourage the community to like us on our Facebook page as we send out a lot of the public safety messages. And in June, we're working on swimming pool safety. So the swimming pools probably haven't been real active due to the weather, but that's coming too. So we want to kind of share some of our tips and safety messages for swimming pool safety. And thank you for any questions.
Everybody good?
Yep. Thank you for your time.
What was that for? You stretching your back? What was that?
He was asking if he needed to do anything about the computer. I told him I couldn't.
Okay. Anything else?
Yeah, I want to say something on the municipal court. I've been looking over a lot of data, just history of finances and stuff, and Leslie pointed out the other day when we were looking over stuff, you can tell when it came to work for the city.
It's very obvious. We had, I don't know, what, 10 years of history pulled up, and I said, can you get some Dean Hank?
Now they put a chart on that? I can do a chart.
Our offices connect, and you know what? From most places, the people that come in to see the judge are not happy campers.
Good.
But she does a really good job with those people.
I said earlier, we need some teeth in it, and I think the new sheriff and stuff is gonna help with a little bit of firepower and that.
He's a good one.
Let's do adjourn from Zach. Second from Richard. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Thank y'all.
I think one thing tonight, if we go over budget, we just come to see.